gradually overshadowed the other priestly groups and emerged as the most important class. The rising importance of the Brahmanas is a peculiar development which is not found in Aryan societies outside India. It appears that non-Aryan elements had some role to play in the information of the Brahmana Varna. They conducted rituals, sacrifices for their clients and for themselves, and also officiated at the festivals associated with agriculture operations. They prayed for the success of their patron in war, and in return the king pledged not to do any harm to them. Sometimes the Brahmanas came into conflict with the Rajanyas, who represented the order of the warrior nobles, known for the positions of supremacy. But when the two upper orders had to deal with the lower orders, they made up their differences. From the end of the later Vedic period on, it began to be emphasized that the two should cooperate to rule over the rest of the society. The Vaishyas constituted the common people, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, common people, and they were assigned to do the producing functions such as agriculture, cattle breeding, etc. Some of them also worked as artisans. Towards the end of the way, they began to engage in trade. The Vaishyas appear to be the only tribute players in the later Vedic times, and the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are represented as the living on tributes collected from the Vaishyas. The process of subjugating the mass of the tribes meant to the position of tribute payers was long and protracted. We have several rituals prescribed for making the refractory people submissive to the prince, Raja, and his close kinsmen called Rajanya. This was done with the help of priests, who also fattened at the cost of people or the Vaishyas. All the three higher Varnas shared one common feature: they were entered Upanayana, or in with the sacred thread. According to the Vedic mantra, the fourth Varna was deprived of the sacred thread ceremony. Okay. Next, and the recitation of the Gayatri mantra, and with this began the imposition of disabilities on Shudras. Okay. ఎవరెవరు శూద్రులు కూడా ఉన్నారు కాబట్టి 4 వర్ణస్లో. The prince who represented the Rajanya order tried to assert his power over all three other Varnas in the Aitreya Brahmana text of the later Vedic period. In relation to the prince, the Brahmana is described as a seeker of livelihood and an acceptor of gifts but removable at will. A Vaishya called tribute paying meant for being beaten and to be oppressed at will. The worst position is reserved for Shudras. He is called servant of other, to be made work at will by another and to be beaten at will. Generally, the Vedic text will draw the line of demarcation between the three higher orders on one hand and Shudras on another hand. There were nevertheless several public rituals connected with the coronation of the king, in which the Shudras participated, presumably as survivors of the original Aryan people. Certain sections of artisans such as Radhakara, chariot maker, enjoyed a high status and were entitled to the sacred thread ceremony. Therefore, even in later Vedic times, Varna distinctions had not advanced very far. In the family, we notice the increasing power of the father, who could even disinherit his son. In princely families, the right of the primogeniture was getting stronger. Male ancestors came to be worshipped. Women are generally given a lower position. Although some women theologians took part in philosophic discussions and some queens participated in Vedic period, later Vedic period, ఇక్కడ women free birds, ఇక్కడ not, ఇక్కడ సభా సమితిలో ఉమెన్ పార్టిసిపేషన్ ఉండేది, ఇక్కడ నాట్, ఇక్కడ ఏంటిది, ఇక్కడ హై పొజిషన్ ఉమెన్కి, ఇక్కడ లో పొజిషన్. Also some women took part in philosophical discussions and some queens participated in coronation rituals. Ordinarily, women were thought to be inferior and subordinate to the men. Next, the institution of Gotra appeared in later Vedic times. Literally, it means the cow pen or the place where cattle belong to the a whole clan are kept, but in course of the time it signified descent from a common ancestor. People began to practice gotra exogamy. No marriage could take place between persons belonging to the same gotra or having same lineage. Correct. Ashramas or four stages of life were not well established in Vedic times. In the post-Vedic texts, we hear of four ashramas: brahmachari or student, grihastha or householder, vanaprastha or hermit, sannyasi. వేదిక్ పీరియడ్లోనే ఫోర్ ఆశ్రమాస్, ధర్మాశ్రమణ వర్ణ ఆశ్రమాస్ ఏంటి ఏంటి బ్రహ్మచారి గృహస్థ, బ్రహ్మచారి గృహస్థ, బ్రహ్మచారి గృహస్థ, వనప్రస్థ, వనప్రస్థ, సన్యాసి, సన్యాసి, అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ లాస్ట్ సన్యాసిన్ యాజ్ ascetic who completely renounced the worldly life. Only the first three are mentioned in the later Vedic text. The last or fourth stage had not been established in later Vedic times, though ascetic life was not unknown. Even in post-Vedic times only, the stage of the householder was commonly practiced by all varnas. Gods, rituals and philosophy. In the later Vedic period, the upper Doab developed to be the cradle of Aryan culture. Under Brahmanical influence, the whole of the Vedic literature seems to have been compiled in this area. In the land of Kuru Panchalas, later Vedic stage, Kuru Panchalas, the cult of sacrifice central to this culture was accompanied by rituals and formulae. The two outstanding Rigvedic gods Indra, Agni lost their former importance. ఇక్కడ ఇంపార్టెన్స్ అనేది పోయింది ఇంద్రునికి, అగ్నికి. On the other hand, Prajapati, the creator, come to occupy the supreme position on the later Vedic pantheon. Some of the other minor gods of the Rigvedic period also came to forefront. Rudra, the god of animals, became important in later Vedic times, and Vishnu came to be conceived as the preserver and protector of the people, who now led a settled life instead of semi-nomadic life as they did in Rigvedic times. In addition, some objects began to be worshipped as symbols of divinity. Signs of idolatry appear in later Vedic times as society became divided into social classes such as Brahmanas, Rajanyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. Rajanyas అంటే క్షత్రియ. రిగ్వేదిక్ టైంలోనేమో ఇంద్ర, అగ్ని, వరుణ ఇలా ఉంటే, ఇక్కడ వచ్చేసి లాటర్ వేదిక్ టైంలో ఇక్కడ విష్ణు, శివుడు వచ్చేసిండ్రు. విష్ణు ప్రజాపతి వీళ్ళు వచ్చారనమాట. రుద్రుడు అంటే ఎవరు? శివ. బ్రహ్మ, విష్ణు, మహేశ్వరుడు అన్నట్టు ఇండైరెక్ట్. Brahmana, Rajanya, some of the social orders came to have own deities. Pushan, who was supposed to look after cattle, came to be regarded as a god of the Shudras. Pushan. Also in the age of Rigveda, cattle rearing was primary occupation of the Aryans. Correct. People worshipped gods for the same material reasons in this period as they did in earlier times. However, the mode of worship changed considerably. Prayers continued to be recited, but they ceased to be dominant mode of reciting the gods. Sacrifices became the four important sacrifices became far more important, and they assumed both public and domestic character. Public sacrifices involved the king and the whole of the community, which was still in many cases identical with the tribe. Private sacrifices were performed by individuals in their houses because in this period the Vedic people led a settled life and maintained regular households. Individuals offered oblations to Agni, and each of these took the form of a ritual sacrifice. Sacrifice involved the killing of animals on a large scale and especially the destruction of cattle wealth. The guest was known as Gogna, or one who fed on cattle. Guestని గోగ్న అంటారు. గోగ్న or one who was fed on cattle. Gogna. Sacrifices were accompanied by formulae which had to be carefully pronounced by the sacrificer. The sacrificer was known as Yajmana, a performer yajna and much of his successes depend on the magical power of words uttered correctly in the sacrifices. Some rituals performed by the Vedic Aryans are common to the Indo-European people, but many rituals seem to have been developed on Indian soil. These farmland sacrifices were These farmland sacrifices were invented, adopted, and elaborated by the priests called Brahmanas. The Brahmanas claimed a monopoly of the priestly knowledge and expertise. They invented a large number of rituals, and some of which are adopted from the non-Aryans. The reason for the invention of elaboration of the rituals is not clear, although though mercenary motives cannot be ruled out. We hear that as many as 240,000 cows were given as dakshina, as gift to the officiating priest. Rajasuya sacrifice 2,40,000 cows ఇచ్చారంట. In addition to cows, which were usually given as sacrifice gifts, బంగారం, బట్టలు, horses were also given. Sometimes the priest claimed portions of territory as dakshina. But the grant of land as sacrifice is not well established in the later period. The Satapatha Brahmana states that in the Ashwamedha Yaga, north, south, east, west, all should be given to priest. If this really happened, then what would remain to the king? This therefore merely indicates the desire of the priest to grab as much land as possible, but really considerable transfer of land to priests could not have taken place. Yes, there is a reference where land and which was being given to the priests refused to be transferred to them. Towards the end of the Vedic period began a strong reaction against priestly domination, against cults and rituals, especially in the land of the Panchalas and Videha, where around 600 BC the Upanishads were compiled. These philosophical texts criticized the rituals and laid stress on the value of right belief and knowledge. They emphasized that the knowledge of self or Atman should be acquired, and the relation of Atman with Brahman should be properly understood. Brahma emerged as the supreme entity compared to the powerful kings of the period. Some of the Kshatriya princes in Panchala Videha also cultivated this type of thinking and created the atmosphere for the reform of the priest-dominated religion. Their teaching promoted the cause of stability and integration, emphasis on the changelessness, indestructibility, and immortality of Atman as soul served the cause of stability, which was needed for the rising state power headed by the Kshatriya Raja. Stress on the relation of Atman with Brahmana fostered alliance to superior authority. Later Vedic period saw certain important changes. We find the beginnings of the territorial kingdoms. Wars were fought not only for the possession of cattle but also for that of territory. The famous Mahabharata battle fought between Kauravas and Pandavas is attributed to this period. The predominantly pastoral society of early Vedic times had become agricultural. The tribal pastorals came to be transformed into peasants who could maintain their chief with frequent tributes. Chiefs grew at the expense of the tribal peasantry and handsomely rewarded the priests who supported their patrons against the common people called Vaishyas. The Shudras were still a small serving order. The tribal society broke up into Varna divided society, but Varna distinctions could not be carried too far. In spite of the support of the Brahmanas, the Rajanyas or the Kshatriyas could not establish a state system. A state cannot be set up without a regular system of taxes and a professional army, which again depends on taxes. But the existing mode of agriculture did not leave scope for taxes and tributes in sufficient manner. సో ఇలా మనము చాప్టర్ 8 అయితే కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయింది. సో నెక్స్ట్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను చాప్టర్ 8 అయిపోయింది. చాప్టర్ 9 కూడా అయిపోయింది. ఇది ఎప్పుడు ఈరోజు ఎంత డేట్ 18th November 2022 అయితే అయిపోయింది. ఇప్పుడు ఇది స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను. ఇప్పుడే స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను. సో ప్రజెంట్ అయితే ఈ లైవ్ స్టాప్ చేస్తాను, మళ్ళీ లైవ్ పెడతాను. అందులో బుద్ధిజం జైనిజం చాప్టర్ చూద్దాము. 11 pages ఉంది. అట్లీస్ట్ కొంచెమన్నా అయిపోతుంది.